as if to make sure of my protection, and moving about in a restless, excited way, which convinced me that she was very much frightened. "It's a horrible vision," she continued. "I cannot stay here any longer. If I look at him again, I shall believe that Death himself has come in search of me. But is he alive?" She placed her hand on the phenomenon with the boldness which women derive from the violence of their wishes, but a cold sweat burst from her pores, for the instant she touched the old man she heard a cry like the noise made by a rattle. That shrill voice, if indeed it were a voice, escaped from a throat almost entirely dry. It was at once succeeded by a convulsive little cough, like a child's, of a peculiar resonance. At that sound, Marianina, Filippo, and Madame de Lanty looked toward us, and their glances were like lightning flashes. The young woman wished that she were at the bottom of the Seine. She took my arm and pulled me away toward a boudoir. Everybody, men and women, made room for us to pass. Having reached the further end of the suite of reception rooms, we entered a small semicircular cabinet. My companion threw herself on a divan, breathing fast with terror, not knowing where she was. "You are mad, madame," I said to her. "But," she rejoined, after a moment's silence, during which I gazed at her in admiration, "is it my fault? Why does Madame de Lanty allow ghosts to wander about her house?" "Nonsense," I replied. "You are just doing what fools do. You mistake a little old man for a spectre." "Hush!" she retorted, with the imposing yet mocking air which all women are so well able to assume when they are determined to put themselves in the right. "Oh, what a sweet boudoir!" she cried, looking about her. "Blue satin hangings always produce an admirable effect. How cool it is! Ah, the lovely picture!" she added, rising and standing in front of a magnificently framed painting. We stood for a moment gazing at that marvel of art, which seemed the work of some supernatural brush. The picture represented Adonis stretched out on a lion's skin. The lamp, in an alabaster vase, hanging in the centre of the boudoir, cast upon the canvas a soft light which enabled us to grasp all the beauties of the picture. "Does such a perfect creature exist?" she asked me, after examining attentively, and not without a sweet smile of satisfaction, the exquisite grace of the outlines, the attitude, the colour, the hair, in fact, everything. "He is too beautiful for a man," she added, after such a scrutiny as she would have bestowed upon a rival. Ah, how sharply I felt at that moment those pangs of jealousy in which a poet had tried in vain to make me believe. The jealousy of engravings, of pictures, of statues, wherein artists exaggerate human beauty as a result of the doctrine which leads them to idealize everything. "It is a portrait," I replied. "It is a product of Vienne's genius, but that great painter never saw the original, and your admiration will be modified somewhat, perhaps, when I tell you that this study was made from the statue of a woman." "But who is it?" I hesitated. "I insist upon knowing," she added earnestly. "I believe," I said, "that this Adonis represents a relative of Madame de Lanty." I had the chagrin of seeing that she was lost in contemplation of that figure. She sat down in silence, and I seated myself beside her and took her hand without her noticing it. Forgotten for a portrait! At that moment we heard in the silence a woman's footstep and the faint rustling of a dress. We saw the youthful Marianina enter the boudoir, even more resplendent by reason of her grace and her fresh costume. She was walking slowly and leading with motherly care, with a daughter's solicitude, the spectre in human attire who had driven us from the music-room. As she led him, she watched with some anxiety the slow movement of his feeble feet. They walked painfully across the boudoir to a door hidden in the hangings. Marianina knocked softly. Instantly a tall, thin man, a sort of familiar spirit, appeared as if by magic. Before entrusting the old man to this mysterious guardian, the lovely child, with deep veneration, kissed the ambulatory corpse, and her chaste caress was not without a touch of that graceful playfulness, the secret of which only a few privileged women possessed. "Addio, addio," she said, with the sweetest inflection of her young voice. She added to the last syllable a wonderfully executed trill in a very low tone, as if to depict the overflowing affection of her heart by a poetic expression. The old man, suddenly arrested by some memory, remained on the threshold of that secret retreat. In the profound silence we heard the sigh that came forth from his breast. He removed the most beautiful of the rings with which his skeleton figures were laden, and placed it in Marianina's bosom. The young madcap laughed, plucked out the ring, and slipped it on one of her fingers over her glove, and ran hastily back toward the salon, where the orchestra were at that moment beginning the prelude of a contradance. She spied us. "Ah, were you here?" she said, blushing. After a searching glance at us, as if to question us, she ran away to her partner with the careless petulance of her years. "What does this mean?" queried my young partner. "Is he her husband? I believe I am dreaming. Where am I?" "You," I reported, "you, madame, who are easily excited, and who, understanding so well the most imperceptible emotions, are about to cultivate in a man's heart the most delicate of sentiments, without crushing it, without shattering it at the very outset, you who have compassion for the tortures of the heart, and who, with the wit of the Parisian, combine a passionate temperament worthy of Spain or Italy." She realized that my words were heavily charged with bitter irony, and thereupon, without seeming to notice it, she interrupted me to say, "Oh, you describe me to suit your own taste. A strange kind of tyranny. You wish me not to be myself." "Oh, I wish nothing," I cried, alarmed by the severity of her manner. "At all events, it is true, is it not, that you like to hear stories of the fierce passions kindled in our heart by the enchanting women of the South?" "Yes. And then?" "Why, I will come to your house about 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, and elucidate this mystery for you." "No," she replied with a pout. "I wish it done now." "You have not yet given me the right to obey you when you say I wish it." "At this moment," she said, with an exhibition of coquetry of the sort that drives men to despair, "I have a most violent desire to know this secret. Tomorrow it may be that I will not listen to you." She smiled, and we parted, she still as proud and cruel, I as ridiculous as ever. She had the audacity to waltz with a young aide-de-camp, and I was by turns angry, sulky, admiring, loving, and jealous. "Until tomorrow," she said to me, and she left the ball about 2 o'clock in the morning. "I won't go," I thought. "I give up. You are 1,000 times more capricious, more fanciful than my imagination." The next evening we were seated in front of a bright fire in a dainty little salon, she on a couch, I on cushions almost at her feet, looking up into her face. The street was silent. The lamp shed a soft light. It was one of those evenings which delight the soul, one of those moments which are never forgotten, one of those hours passed in peace and longing whose charm is always in later years a source of regret, even when we are happier. What can efface the deep imprint of the first solicitations of love? "Go on," she said, "I am listening." But I dare not begin. There are passages in the story which are dangerous to the narrator. If I become excited